what happened to the original plot of the movie. Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel. I was looking through all of my NetGalley arcs and deciding I needed to catch up on some of those, and I found out that a few of them actually come out in September, so I thought it would be fun to just read them all together for a reading vlog. So that's what this is. Pretty self-explanatory. I read 4 arcs in this video, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Hi, I'm coming to you guys a lot sooner than I expected. Starting this reading vlog a lot sooner than I expected because this book wasn't part of the original plans that I had for this, but I just got approved for it on NetGalley. It's already out. It came out at the end of July, but like I said, I just got approved, so I got approved after it was published. But I figured I would throw it in here because it doesn't have a lot of ratings. I think right now it has 2 ratings on Goodreads, and the author has a couple other books out, and I think her most popular book has 10 ratings on Goodreads. So not very popular. Maybe it'll be like an kind of underrated favorite. So I was thinking maybe we could throw it in the video and see if we can get some more exposure for this book and this author. Anyways, this is Domestication by Shannon Knight. I'm gonna pop up like the cover bigger so you guys can see it because that's like what drew me into this. I think the cover is so freaking cool. Anyway, I think like 35% of the way through, 34% of the way through, and I don't remember what the synopsis says, so I'm just going to tell you guys what we're reading so far. We have this woman whose name I don't remember. Wait, what is her name? Janie. Okay. So we start off with Janie getting off a bus in the middle of nowhere, walking down the side of like this deserted highway, and then walking off into the woods, and we basically find that she has run from her abusive husband and has found kind of a place to like lay low. She basically finds this like farm out in the middle of nowhere and gets employed there by this couple that lives there. So she's been working for this couple for a little while now, as far as I am in the book. In the couple, the woman, her name is Rob. I can't remember what her full name is, but she goes by Rob. And then we have Harold, who is the husband, and it's very, very hard work working on a farm. These two are older as well, so they can't do as much, so they make Janie kind of do more of the like really hard physical labor, taking care of different animals, doing different things in the barn. And Janie is just, she's running from a lot and is just working through that, but she also wants to be in this environment where it's different from what she's used to. She's an entirely new person now. She's gaining physical strength. She's gaining skills that she'd never had in her old life. So it's very interesting so far. Rob, the woman she's working for, has a lot of red flags, is very, very overbearing and sort of abusive, not like physically abusive, but like you can definitely tell that that woman is unhinged, and I think things are definitely going to escalate because so far from what we've read, like from her very first day there and meeting Rob and her first couple days working to where we are now, like things have definitely escalated and she's seen more sides of this woman come out. She is also like discovering some weird things on this farm. It is scattered with very strange bones. Some of them are animals, some of them are not appearing to be animal bones. There are messages written inside of like the barn where she does her work, so it's clearly been written from somebody that worked there before her. There have been mentions of like the previous like employees, farm hands, that weren't tough enough for the job and just like left in the middle of the night. So I think she's becoming more and more suspicious of this area and of the people that she's working with. So with a title like Domestication and with the different themes that are presented so far in the book, like you can kind of infer that it's speaking of like domestication of women and the way that women are viewed as kind of being supposed to be at least submissive to their husbands, working in the kitchen, doing like the housework, raising the kids, and that sort of thing. So it's really interesting. This couple we have on the farm, Rob, the woman, does most of like the physical labor and the farm work, versus Harold is like the one that seemingly like his only job is to like cook and do some lighter work around the house. And then he's also, from what we've seen, very submissive to Rob as well. This man has not spoken a single word so far as we've known him in the story, but you can definitely tell like he just kind of takes shit from Rob. So it's very interesting. I think there's definitely like going to be some messages there, and I'm really curious how that whole storyline is going to play out, because it's definitely like reverse domestication is kind of what it feels like to me. Like, I know that's kind of a silly way to explain it, but like that's how it's coming off. Like, the woman is very overbearing and coming down really hard on this guy, and he's just like cooking and doing his thing in the house. So I don't know, I'm really enjoying it. I'm very curious to see where it goes, and like where our character's story goes, where Janie's story goes, and just how different things play out. If things are going to get a lot darker with the people and with this farm that she's on. Right now, though, I feel like we've just been doing the same thing over and over, like just getting her day-to-day life of all this work she has to do on the farm, and how she's being treated, and what they're eating for dinner. And I feel like we need to pick it up. There have been some developments, definitely, but it's not like escalating a whole lot right now. So I really hope that it starts picking up really soon, and we get into some more interesting things and kind of deviate from the day-to-day like play-by-play basically that we've been getting. So that's all my thoughts right now. I am interested to see where it goes. I am going to keep reading for tonight, and I will see you guys later. Hello, I am assembling dinner tacos, sort of burritos. I don't know what they are, but I figured I would give you guys my book update while I do that. So I am like 80-something% of the way through, like 85% of the way through. I have maybe 40 minutes left in the book. Things have definitely like progressed. There have definitely been some new developments, but I feel like I'm having a really hard time deciphering how I feel about this book, because I feel like I don't really have a lot of things to say. I think one of the big things with this is that it's definitely more like character focused, and the plot is getting kind of lost, because we are still just into that day-to-day that I kind of described in the last update, where we're learning about everything she does on the farm and what to eat for dinner. It's definitely dark. It's definitely like gruesome and gory. There is some really brutal stuff going on, but I feel like, I don't know, the way it's written, it's very hard to like figure out how I feel about it. I don't know. We are definitely like following Janie's journey psychologically and within herself, as she has escaped this abusive relationship and now has kind of found herself in a different abusive situation, and her really wanting to shed like her past self and try to mold a new Janie, but being in a situation that is not entirely similar, but similarly abusive to the last situation she was in. She's just going through a lot of transformation and figuring out, you know, is she going to break out of this cycle, or is she going to turn into one of the monsters as well? It's really interesting. There are a lot of really interesting and like good themes when it comes to horror that I'm really enjoying. I thought that maybe if I like talked through my feelings out loud, I would get a better grasp on how I feel, but I don't think this is really helping, because I still feel like, I don't know, there's like something that is keeping me from being fully pulled into the story, and I don't know what it is. I think maybe the book is a little bit too long. It's kind of dragging in pieces. Like I said, there are a lot of very repetitive things. I think maybe if this was 100 pages less, it would have been a stronger story, but I'm definitely still interested in the characters and the different character dynamics and where things are going to go, how this is going to play out. I wish I could talk more about the different developments that have happened and the different things that are happening on this farm with these people, but I can't because that will spoil it. And it's one of those moments where it's really frustrating that this is such a, like, what is the word? Not widely read, or very, very, like, unpopular, I guess, book, because I want to see what more people are saying about it and different conversations there. Like I said, there's only 2 reviews on Goodreads, and they're both very short and they don't say a lot, and I just want, I don't know, I want more people to read this so I have more people to talk about it with, because I'm really torn on how I feel. I am enjoying it. I will say it has like this very addictive quality where I'm thinking about it when I'm not reading it, and I want to know where the story is going to go for the different characters. And I just find their relationships to each other very, very interesting. I'm gonna finish my dinner, I'm gonna finish my book, and come back to you guys later. So it's later now. I am finished with Domestication. I don't really have a lot more to say that I didn't already say in my last update. It's definitely a very character-driven story with a lot of darker themes presented, but I really liked it. I enjoyed the different things that happened. I enjoyed where the story went and how things ended and how things wrapped up for the characters. I will say there is a cat in this story, like a barn cat. This farm has a bunch of different barn cats, and our main character, Janie, becomes very attached to one cat in particular, and the whole book, I was, like, very anxiety-ridden, because I was like, something bad is gonna happen. Like, these people are gonna do something to this cat in order to make Janie, like, suffer, and I was, like, so scared. I was like, oh my god, something's gonna happen to this cat. But I'm happy to report that nothing happens. The cat makes it out and everything's okay in the end with the cat. So if you're like me and that is something, hello? Can we not fall over? If you're like me and that's something that you worry about when you're reading any type of horror book that involves an animal, just know that everything works out for the cat in this one. Like I said, I don't really have a lot to say that I haven't already said. I liked it, and I think that it's definitely a horror novel that a lot of people can enjoy if you like things that are more character driven, and once again deal with a lot of darker things and more like psychological things, as we're really looking into Janie's mind and where she came from, making her who she is today, and where she hopes to be in the future, and like her journey of transformation and things like that, like very psychological on that front. I think you would definitely enjoy it. I would recommend this. I hope it finds the readers that are going to love it, because once again, it doesn't have a lot of readers, so I'm really hoping that it gets to the audience out there that will appreciate it, and luckily I was one of those. But that's all I'm gonna say about Domestication. I don't know if I told you, but I ended up giving it 4 stars. So now we're gonna move on to the next book. Hello. It's the next day. It is like a tropical storm right now, so it's very rainy and it's very windy, so if you hear rain in the background, that's why you're currently in front of a window. I have been very lazy today. I have not done any reading on this stormy day, but I did read The Night Guest yesterday. This is a novella. The chapters are very short, and some of the chapters are literally just like one sentence and then it goes on to the next chapter. So basically what I'm getting at is it was a very quick read and very, very short. This book definitely wastes no time getting into it. We start off right in the action with our main character, whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce because this book was translated from Icelandic, so I don't know how to pronounce any of the names in this. But we meet her, she's in the doctor's office, and she is basically explaining these strange symptoms that she's having and seeking help for them. She just basically feels exhausted all the time, no matter how much sleep she gets at night. And then whenever she wakes up in the morning, she feels like physically sore, like muscle soreness. She explains it as like if you're exerting yourself physically all day and you know you're going to be feeling it the next day. Like, that's what she feels like. She oftentimes has bruises on herself, scratches on herself, and she just doesn't know, like, what is going on. And obviously she's kind of got some anxiety about it, and she's coming up with all these different things in her head, like it's cancer or different things. So she's seeking out help, and that's very interesting as well, because we get to go along with her navigating like the medical field and trying to figure out what the problem is, but also trying to advocate for herself, because so many doctors are quick to dismiss her. She's had so many doctors that tell her, like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you, like, you're fine, your blood levels are fine, so there's nothing wrong. So she tries to, like I said, advocate for herself, get a female doctor, because she thinks a female doctor will be more likely to believe her, female to female. So that had some interesting commentary and kind of reflective of the way that the medical system is today, and especially when it comes to women seeking help, how often they are dismissed or not believed when they are presenting symptoms. So I really enjoyed that part. And then basically things escalate from there. The whole story is just her trying to figure out, like, what is going on. Like, what is she doing? What's happening to her at night? How can she fix it? Why does she feel this way? And as things get worse, she kind of loses more and more of herself and starts to change in a lot of different ways as well. I feel like there are a few things that you could compare this to. Thinking of movies, I would say Jennifer's Body, which I know I've heard other people say. Also the movie Raw, which, side note, is one of my favorite horror movies. As far as books, one thing that stands out to me is Come Closer by Sarah Gran. I feel like all three of these are novels, not novels, they're not all novels, they're all stories that follow women going through something bloody and gruesome, experiencing bodily changes, mental changes, and not fully understanding or grasping what it is, but still having to navigate and go about their life and figure things out on their own without really a lot of support. I like the writing style, I like the narrative as well, and I think that our main character, like, her personality comes through very strong, and she's very easy to like and relate to, and then also sympathize with as she's going through all of this, and it's very frustrating and scary and confusing for her, and I really feel for her. But I also feel like she, like I said, her personality comes through so well, and there's some, like, humor within the writing, even though, like, it's definitely dealing with some dark things. Content warning, because I mentioned for the last book how I was like, oh, if you're somebody who worries about, like, the animals every time you read a book, like, the cat's fine in that one. In this one, many cats die. Their deaths and graphic scenes are not, like, on page, but it's definitely talked about animal death and animal cruelty. So just be aware of that before going into this, specifically with cats and multiple cats. So yeah, like, the horror elements are definitely there, and I really liked this one. It was weird and just very fun to follow along, easy to get into, easy to read, easy to want to keep reading. But then the end, I literally read the last page and flipped, and I saw the acknowledgements, and I literally went, that was it? I was like, wait, hold on a second. That was the end? It's very abrupt. Like, it feels like the ending comes out of nowhere, and it's definitely open-ended. There is a lot that is up for interpretation. There are a lot of different things, I feel like, that were touched on in the story, but never kind of fully explained, which is definitely, like, the purpose. Like, it's supposed to be ambiguous and open-ended, and not fully explain everything, but I feel like it was maybe a little bit too much of that. I wish we got just, like, a little bit more clarification on some certain things that were brought up within the story, specifically our main character's relationship with her sister, which I'm not going to talk about too much because I don't want to give anything away, but I feel like there was definitely room for some additional information with, like, still being able to keep that sense of ambiguity and that open ending. So I'm not really sure how I feel about the end. Overall, though, I did enjoy this. Like I said, I enjoyed the way that it's written. And I would definitely read more from this author if more things get translated. I don't know if this is a debut or if this author has other things out. I don't know if this author has other things out in English, but I really liked it, and I would definitely be willing to try more from the same author. And I liked a lot of the themes and the different horror elements that were going on, so I would still recommend it. Sorry I didn't update you guys while I was reading it. Like, it was literally such a quick read that I didn't have time. It was probably like maybe an hour and a half total spent reading this book, and that's kind of like rounding up. So it's a very, very quick read. I would say things are going well. 2 books down, 2 to go. We've got 2 4-stars so far. I'm hoping that we can get a 5-star or maybe a new favorite. So let's move on to the next book and see what that one brings us. I'm about 35% of the way through Dearest by Jackie Walters right now. This is a debut horror novel, and this is motherhood horror. Our main character is Flora. She has just given birth to her daughter named Iris. Her husband is currently deployed, so he's not home to help out. And her father was staying with her shortly after the birth, but he has since left and gone home and gotten back to his own life. So she is just really having a really difficult time. A lot of bodily changes, a lot of mental things going on, and it's just a lot of work and upkeep to be home with this newborn baby by herself. So she's really struggling, and she decides to reach out to her mother. She has a very strained relationship with her mother, and they haven't spoken in some years, so her mother doesn't even really know that she has a baby. But she just kind of reaches this breaking point and reaches out to her mom, and it's just like, I wish you were here. And then surprise, surprise, her mother shows up at the doorstep. So where we are in the book now, I'm in part 2, which is right after her mother arrives. They definitely have a very strained relationship, and she immediately comes in and is like, you know, trying to put in her own 2 cents of like what Flora is doing wrong and what she could do better and all this stuff. And, you know, she's saying, well, I raised you without any of this stuff. Like, I know what I'm doing. And it's just very like tense between the 2 of them right now. Flora is also experiencing some very strange things. Not only is she dealing just with postpartum depression, but there's also like a paranormal or supernatural aspect to it, or at least like that's the feel that I'm getting right now. She is hearing things, she is seeing things that aren't there. Certain objects are being moved around and manipulated, and she turns things off just for them to get turned back on. She removes the batteries just for them to turn back on. So it's very interesting. I think there's definitely like something paranormal going on there. Flora also is somebody who has sleep paralysis. Not super often, but she just had an episode for the first time in a while after the birth of her daughter. So obviously I think that's going to come into play later. We also have this element of Flora's like childhood imaginary friend, and I'm very suspicious of that because I think we're definitely going to deal with a lot of like topics of generational trauma, obviously motherhood, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. I was reading a lot of Goodreads reviews, and people are saying like crazy things happen in here, and it's a really, really fun horror story, and there's just a lot of wild and crazy elements to it. So I really like that, or I'm really looking forward to that. So far it's reminding me of Nestlings by Nat Cassidy. Obviously in the very similar themes, although I don't think like plot-wise or horror-wise they're gonna be similar, but just the themes of motherhood, and this woman being alone with her new child and being faced with these complicated feelings towards her child and towards herself. There are some quotes that I want to share with you guys because I really like the way that they explain Flora's like state of mind and the way that she's thinking, but obviously this is an arc, so I can't directly quote from it, but it's going well so far. It's very quick and easy read. Like I said, I'm about 35% of the way through. I think this is just over 300 pages. If I really try, I could finish this tonight. I don't know if that will happen, but I'm going to keep reading and see how far I can get in the rest of the evening, and I will see you guys later for another update. I'm still reading Dearest. I'm just about to sit down and finish it and eat some dinner, so I just wanted to do another quick update before I finish it. It says I have 26 minutes left in the book. I am 89% of the way through. So after my last update, things started to escalate very quickly, probably around like halfway through the book. A lot of crazy things happened. There was some good horror and some gory and like nasty descriptions of things. There was one thing that happened that I did not see coming, and then there was a second thing happened that I did actually predict, which is why I'm going to have to go back and censor out the last update that I talked to you guys about, because I literally started talking about this thing and then I predicted what this, like, I don't know, it wasn't really a mystery, but I predicted a twist, I guess. So I'm really enjoying it. It's definitely keeping with those same themes of motherhood and feminism, and it's touching on some dark topics. So this is, I feel like it's like weird. Okay, I'm not a mother. I'm a cat mom. I will only ever be a cat mom. So I don't personally relate to the struggles of postpartum depression or motherhood or anything like that, but I can relate on the like female part of it and the way that people around her are treating her and her fear of not being believed for these things that she's experiencing and the way that her husband is treating her and how frustrating that all is. So this, like, I can't say I would recommend it to people that are mothers, because I think it could go either way. Like, yes, because you could understand the struggles, but then I also see that it could be very triggering to people that are mothers or who have gone through having postpartum depression. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying some of the themes in here. Like I said, it got dark. There's also like this paranormal aspect, almost this like occult type of aspect to it. There are a lot of really interesting developments, and everything is going to wrap up pretty soon in the last little bit of the book that I have. So I'm really excited to get back into it. I'm definitely having a good positive reading experience with this. I don't think it'll be a 5-star, but I do know that I'm enjoying it, and I will definitely read more from this author. Like I mentioned previously, this is a debut, so I will definitely be interested in picking up other horror that this author puts out because I am enjoying this one so much. I think this is definitely one that I see a lot of people really enjoying and really loving as well. So if this type of horror and these themes sound really interesting to you, I would recommend. There have also been some little, oh my god, that is so bright. There have been some little references to the yellow wallpaper in here as well, which I think is just fun, and it definitely has like a deeper meaning, and the parallels between the yellow wallpaper and the messages in that story, and then also what's happening in here. So I'm gonna finish that, I'm gonna eat my dinner, and I'm gonna stop being blinded by the sun because I don't think that's gonna be pleasant for either of us right now. I have 13 minutes left and things are getting absolutely so unhinged, so I'm just going to record myself. I know this isn't the greatest angle, but I just want to see. I'm just going to record myself at the end of this. Why did I know it was gonna end on something weird like that? Let me gather my thoughts and I will come back and do a proper update at some point. It's the next day. I have some things to talk to you guys about. I'm finally ready to give you my final thoughts on Dearest. So let's start with that. I don't really have too much more to say that I haven't already said, but I really enjoyed this one. Initially, I was thinking about giving it 4 stars, I know it's not a 5, but when I was writing out my review for Goodreads and for NetGalley, I realized that I enjoyed it a lot more than I initially thought that I had. So I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. It was really, really fun. The horror elements were great. Like, it was so wild. This is definitely a book I would say if you have any expectations going into it, like, just get rid of them, because there's no way you can really predict like what's going on. Like, there is no way that I would have predicted the horror elements of this story. It definitely exceeded my expectations for it. A lot of crazy things happened, but it was really well done. I like the writing. I will definitely read more from this author if she puts out more horror in the future. There was some really great and really solid horror imagery in there as well, and just a lot of really fun elements. So I'm very happy to report that I enjoyed that book. Like I said, I don't really have a lot more to say that I haven't already said. So we're gonna move on now because I did start the next book. So this is The Ravening by Daniel Church, which really it was just the cover that got me, and then I read the synopsis and it mentions like ancient evil and creatures in the woods, and I was like, okay, I'm sold. Like, you're giving me a folk horror vibe and I'm here for it. So let me tell you guys, the prologue takes place in like 2007 or 2009 or something like that, and we have this woman, Jenna. I think that's her name. We're gonna go with that. Her name is Jenna, yes. Jenna and her mother. Jenna's 15 at this time, and they are driving down this road that is pretty much surrounded by woods, and it's really, really dark out. They hit something with the vehicle and they're just stuck there. So the mom's trying to figure out what to do. They're trying to look at the map to see if there are other towns or villages that they can walk through, but obviously being like the dead of night, like it's dark, there's no streetlights or anything. Walking is kind of out of the question because it's very a heavily wooded area, like thick trees. Their phones don't have any service, so they can't call to get towed or anything. They're just in a dead zone. So the mom gets out and she's like, well, let me see what's going on. Maybe I can fix this and get us moving again, just to get us out of this area and to, you know, some sort of civilization. So her mom's outside of the car. She tells Jenna to wait inside, and then she basically just gets snatched by this creature. Jenna doesn't see anything. She doesn't hear anything. The only presence that she senses is this disgusting smell. Pretty much any bad smell ever, all combined into one, like decaying flesh and like shit and just all of that. Not good. That's the only inkling that she gets into there being something there, and then she hears her mother scream and she never sees her mother again. So eventually the next day somebody comes and stumbles upon the car. They find Jenna inside of it and absolutely no trace of her mother. Not any blood, hair, clothing, like it's literally just like she was like yoinked. And Jenna knows that there was this creature involved, but she can't really like do anything about it because who's gonna believe that, right? So then she is just plagued by sleep paralysis and nightmares of this creature, and in these nightmares she is in the woods and she can see this creature vaguely and kind of get a sense of it, but she can't fully paint a picture of it, but she knows that that's the creature that is responsible for what happened to her mother and that thing that was there with them on that night. So then we jump to 2022 and Jenna is 30 years old now, and it is at this point that I was like, what happened to the original plot of the movie? And I don't mean that like the synopsis is misleading, because it's not. It's just very short, and it does mention like the ancient evil and this creature thing, which definitely is like a big part of the story, but there's also like this huge like plot line that's happening that is like revolving around Jenna and is very, very vital to the story, and it's just weird to me that that's not mentioned in the synopsis. And it's like weird because I'm like, well, do I bring it up because it's not mentioned in the synopsis? But it happens within less than 10% of the book, so in my opinion that's not a spoiler. But basically Jenna obviously has a lot of trouble. She's very fucked up. She has very low self-esteem. She really just believes like everybody is going to leave her eventually. Nobody ever stays in her life for very long. She struggles a lot with long-term relationships. She said she's never had a relationship longer than 3 months. So she's just really struggling, and she's very self-deprecating, and sometimes it's kind of annoying. I'm not the biggest fan of Jenna, but like I understand why she is the way she is, so I'm trying not to be mean to her. So she was dating this guy named James. They dated for like a month. She couldn't stand him. She dumped him. A couple months later, it's 2 months later, and now she has a girlfriend named Holly who she really likes, and things seem to be going well in the relationship when Jenna finds out that she's pregnant with James's baby. She is very alarmed and very confused because they always use protection, and Jenna is not somebody that ever wants to have children. So she makes an appointment to get an abortion because she finds out that, you know, it must have been some way that James did this intentionally, wanted to get her pregnant, maybe to have her stick around, but didn't work because she left him anyways. So she makes an appointment for an abortion, and she's on her way there, and then she gets snatched. She gets like straight up kidnapped and taken to this like secluded home in the middle of the woods, and James is there and is like, you're gonna have my baby. And he's got like people working for him because he's very rich and very wealthy and very powerful, and they're just holding Jenna captive. And supposedly, once she has the baby and everything's fine, then they'll let her go. But like, I think we all know that's not what's gonna happen. So it's just like, this is what I mean, why it just kind of took me off guard, because it wasn't the story that I was expecting it to be. It's definitely related to the creature and all of that. Like, it's definitely a big part of it. But the situation that we're in is not mentioned in the synopsis, and that's very confusing to me, because I'm like, how did we get here? Like, what, how did this happen? Aside from that though, and aside from it being maybe a little bit confusing and jumbled at that point, just because it just was so different than what I thought it was gonna be, I am enjoying, like, I'm interested in it. I'm intrigued. I'm curious to see where it goes, and I'm curious to learn more of the backstory and lore of this creature who Jenna calls the Bone Walker. We got a really good description. She got to see it kind of up close, and I really enjoyed that. In my head, and it's like, okay, this was before it was described, because now that it was described, I know that it looks like different from this, but in my head at first, I was just picturing Moder, I think that's how you say it, from The Ritual. And I think that's just because like Adam Neville and like folk horror and things like that, that's like what my brain is going to, especially with like the antlers and everything, which is one of my favorite probably like depictions of a monster in a movie. Like, it's so good. Anyway, this creature doesn't look like that, the way that they described it, but at first that's what my brain was picturing, and it was creeping me out. I do like folk horror. I do like things that take place in the woods and involve creatures. So I'm curious to see where this goes, and interested in how the whole like baby thing ties into it, because I'm assuming like this baby is like a ritual or like a sacrifice to this creature or something like that, but I'm not sure why. So I'm sure all will be revealed. I know I mentioned I'm not really the biggest fan of Jenna, but I'm trying not to be too critical of her, because like, you know, she's kind of fucked up. Like, she went through a lot of shit when she was younger, and I get that. James himself right now just feels like a very stereotypical, like flat, villainous character. So I hope we get some more development in that front. I'm sure as we learn more of the backstory of this creature and why James is working with the creature, then we'll kind of learn more about him as a person. Same shirt, different day. I'm now 65% of the way through The Ravening by Daniel Church, and I'm not really sure if I'm liking it. I feel like it's nothing like what I expected it to be. A lot of the elements that I expected are there, but the story itself is very different from what I expected. Most of this is focused on Jenna and like her trauma and everything she went through in the past, and how she is growing and changing, and also her relationship with her current girlfriend Holly, and you know, the way she's like falling in love but she doesn't want to believe it, and she just has all of this baggage and all of these beliefs about herself and about her relationships that makes her like have a very difficult time accepting her feelings towards Holly. And that is like a big part of the story. Like that's the main focus of the story, but there's also like that horror as well of this creature, the Bone Walker, that is trying to get to her for different reasons. Don't get me wrong, this isn't a bad book. Like I've definitely read way worse, but there are points during this book where I can feel myself zoning out and just being like, what the heck is going on? And I'm not really sure why. Like there's stuff happening. Like there's a lot of action happening, and a lot of different things, but I almost feel like maybe that is the fault with the book, where it has so many different things going on that it's kind of getting distracting to the main storyline. Like I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like there's so much going on, and I don't know, maybe this would have been better if it was like shorter and simpler, which maybe doesn't sound like the nicest or the best thing to say, but I just feel like there's a lot going on. I would say between like 35% and the 60% mark are the points where I was like zoning out. I was reading this and I could feel my eyes glazing over and I was like about to fall asleep. And now where I'm at 65% of the way through, I think that intrigue is coming back. Things are picking up again, but it's just very difficult because like I don't know where things are going to go from here. I don't know what new elements are going to be introduced, because I feel like already this is so different from what I expected. So like where else is it going to go, you know? And how is it going to end? I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it. I would say like my prediction right now is that this will probably be a 3-star, because like there's nothing wrong with like the writing or really the story itself. It's just not what I was expecting, and I don't know how it could have been pitched differently, and if it were pitched differently, if I still would have been intrigued by the synopsis like I was initially. That's where I'm at right now. Kindle says I've got about 2 more hours left in this, so I'm planning to finish it tonight, and I will give you guys my final update later. I don't know where the story's gonna take me, so we'll see. It could really go either way at this point. It's 10 p.m. I've just finished the book, and I just realized I've been saying this whole time The Ravening, and I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be pronounced The Ravening. I don't know why. Like I literally finished the book and I was like, that's so weird. I wonder why it's called The Ravening. And then it just like clicked in my head. I don't know why I didn't figure this out sooner, but it just clicked. I was like, wait, I think that's pronounced ravening. So little side note there. I think I am gonna give this 3 stars. I don't know, it just like I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the book itself. It just wasn't to my tastes. There is one thing that I will say was like a little bit annoying about the reading experience, and that is the word babe was used so many times. Jenna and Holly, obviously in their relationship, they call each other babe, which is fine. Jenna, her like inner monologue, like her inner voice, she talks to herself and she calls herself babe, which once again is fine, whatever. But I searched in here, and according to Kindle, the word babe was used 116 times in this book. Like it was a lot. Like it felt like it was every other sentence that she was saying babe, and it got old very, very quick, and I forgot to mention that earlier. That's like the one critique I would give it as far as writing. So people I would recommend this book to, I would say if you are a fan of fantasy horror, you like horror that has creatures, conversations about bodily autonomy, love will prevail, queer love will prevail, themes of immortality, situations in which there is a lot of history and lore surrounding something, because we are given a lot of like history and background in this story, bargaining, ancient evil, things like that. Maybe you could enjoy this. Definitely stories that focus mainly on the characters and their feelings and their actions and their motivations for things and their relationships. because that's a big part of this, as I mentioned. So if you like all of those things, a lot of action and moving around, like there was a lot of different spaces that we were in with these characters throughout the duration of this book, and maybe that's why it felt so busy at times, because there was just a lot going on. Like, they didn't stay in one place for very long at any point in this book. I'm gonna leave it there because honestly I don't really have a lot to say about this. Not to sound like a broken record, but I still do wish that the synopsis was a little bit more descriptive. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this video though. So I think we did pretty good. We have 4 arcs. They all come out in September, so if any of them sound really interesting or really good to you, definitely pick them up. I had 2 4 stars, I had a 4.5 star, which was great, which was a win for me, and then we had a 3 star. So overall, a pretty good mix of things. If any of these books are on your radar, or if you've read the arcs for them as well, let me know. I'd be really curious to hear your thoughts and if we differ or if we have similar thoughts on anything. With all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you guys next time.